Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer, a real special episode. Right now we're going to answer Nolster1's observations. Nolster has stopped by the channel and left a lot of comments. He's particularly a big fan of Pat the NES Punk, right? And he drives a lot of conversation on the channel because he's usually on the other side of many of the conversations, and for that, I really have to thank him, because that really makes the channel better, right? I've told you guys before, if we're all on the same page, it's boring conversations, right? You have to be on the other side at some point. And it's impossible for me to be right 100% of the time, right? Sometimes I'll get it wrong. And it's impossible for Pat to be 100% right all the time, right? Sometimes he'll get it wrong. That would be my question for Nolster. Hey, Nolster, what are your top three Pat mistakes, right? That would be my challenge for him. But here I'll answer his questions. And I didn't want to do it on text, because sometimes it loses the flavor, right, of what you're trying to say. I'll do it real quick here because I'm sterilizing bottles right now, right? Oh man, it's been quite a day. But anyway, how many times are you going to get what Pat would do? How many times are you going to guess what Pat would do? I'm not guessing here, right? I'm reading his statement. I can make a couple of inferences, but I'm not guessing. I think the only guess that I made would have been towards Gerard's behavior, and Gerard trying to cozy up to Pat so he can get those legitimacy points for his charity, because Pat's brand is to stand up against scammers, and nobody would suspect him of being a scammer if Pat endorsed him. Right? That would be something that I would be guessing on, but I think that would be a pretty educated guess. And as far as Pat, I'm just reading what he wrote. Don't you respond differently to people if a drunk kicks you in a bar? Won't you act differently than if your wife kicked you? How did you know my wife kicked me? Number one. But I think it's a false equivalency here, because I'm criticizing a public figure in his course of work, right? We're talking about work. I mean, you might take it personally. I don't know if you are Pat's cousin, or maybe you're just a really big fan of Pat. I don't know. I don't care. The fact is that he's doing his work, and in the course of his work, he's acting differently in two different situations, right? You can be anything at work. You can do anything. You could be, I don't know, cutting hair, right? Do you cut everybody's hair the same? If somebody you don't like, but they pay you, right, the same amount of money, they tip you the same, but you just don't like him, do you cut his hair worse? Do you cut it better for your buddy? I mean, that would be in the course of a job, if you want to make that analogy, yes. This is just not the public, though. And Pat's brand is to stand up against scammers, right? So he is treating it differently. He himself said it affected him more than he cared to admit, right? And that's why he's being biased towards the story. That's why it really, in my point of view, and this is just an opinion, guy, just like it is yours, right? In my point of view, his credibility takes a hit because this is such a huge scam. Because in my point of view, the completionist, because of the size of his channel, took advantage of Pat. Okay, let's see here. You never answer any questions, but I'll give it a go anyway. I will answer your questions. I try to answer a lot of questions, guys, but I don't have the time that I used to have in this channel with a baby, but I try to get as many questions as I can, and I'm making an exception here for you, because you have a lot of them, and I think you make valid points that should be answered, right? That anybody could have on the other side, especially if you're a big CU podcast fan or Pat fan. How do you know Pat and Gerard are such close friends? Well, I didn't say that we're close friends, but they do have a close relationship by Pat's words, right? He feels proud of him. He feels proud of his progress. He thought so highly of him that he put him in his book, right? Talking about business relationship, right? So, I just have to go off Pat's statements. You don't praise strangers like that. You don't have strangers write forwards to your book. Why do you believe Pat would have intimate knowledge of Gerard's finances? I didn't say that. I said that he would know better than anybody, right, how this guy operated when it comes to charity, because he appeared in his charity events, right? So he would know what this guy, how this guy operates when it comes to charities, right? You don't go to somebody, you don't work with somebody. I mean, do you work with people where you never talk business, right? Is there things that Gerard asked for? Are there, is there certain conditions that he put, as far as what he said on video? I mean, I think those are fair questions. I don't think those are out of bounds. Okay, there is no shortage of YouTubers milking this story to death, you included. You got that right. You're absolutely right about that. Why is it so important for Pat to make yet another video about it? Well, for me, it's not important for me. It doesn't matter what I think, right? Mine's just an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, right? But this is what Pat said on his statement, and I pointed that out. Pat mentions the video, right, that he would do after some thought. He didn't do it. He also mentioned holding your friends to higher standards. Well, in the course of his business, again, we're talking about business here. In the course of his business, the higher standard would be the well thought out video, right? Like he's done for many other scams. I mean, that's just my opinion. If Pat made a video, what would he have to say to satisfy you? He wouldn't have to say anything to satisfy me, right? He has to satisfy the precedent that he set. He has to satisfy his own standard. I'm just pointing it out. I mean, you can be upset that I'm pointing it out, but that's exactly what his statement says, that if you know somebody, you should hold them to a higher standard. And in the world of YouTube, in the world of Pat and his brand, these expose videos that he makes, right, are the higher standard, right? And there's investigative reporting in there. There's citations, there's sources, there's all this stuff, right? That is the higher standard. Again, I'm just pointing it out. He doesn't have to satisfy me. He has to satisfy the standard he set, right? That's my opinion based on what he wrote. If you see it another way, you see it another way. But I think most people, based on what he wrote, would probably hold him to that standard and would think that that's what he means. All right, what do appearance fees and plane tickets have to do with any of this? Well, did you miss this? Okay, so I'm going to assume that you missed it, okay? So maybe there's other people out there that missed it. So what happens here is that these YouTubers like Gerard, right, he said on video that 100% of all donations were going to charity, right? So imagine if he goes to Pat's country's fundraising deal, right? And Pat's out there saying, hey, 100% of this stuff is going to go to the charity, right? And that's his intention. He's just running a charity out of his own channel. He doesn't have to do anything. He's just sitting in front of his sofa or wherever he's doing his charity event from. And here comes a completionist. Now the completionist is on video saying that these are fees that he had to take out of the donations after he said that 100% of the donations were going to be for the charity. But after he said, no, I took some of the bits, cheers, super chats, all that stuff, I used it to pay for expenses such as appearance fees, such as travel, food, all this stuff. So imagine Pat is throwing this event, and as he's throwing it, the completionist comes in and says, look, buddy, yeah, I'm showing up, but you need to give me plane tickets, you need to give me an appearance fee of whatever the fee is, and you have to do A, B, and C for me so I can show up to your event. That's why I said he needs to define what graciously means, right? Because people can be gracious, but they still can charge you a fee, which is, in my opinion, pretty fucked up thing to do if you're trying to do charity work. And Gerard said that he raised millions of dollars for charity, or $650,000 a year or something like that, working with different charities outside of his own. And I'm paraphrasing here, right? So if that, we want to know, did he make those demands of Pat for showing up at those events, or did Pat have to pay him anything to do so, right? Because the way the completionist phrased it on his video, that's par for the course, right? That's something that is standard when he operates these charities, right? So I think that's a fair question, right? And that's what it has to do with anything, because the completionist was saying that everything was going to the charity, and in reality he was, taking some of that money in order to pay himself back for plane tickets and stuff like that. All right, you're only using the Gerard story to throw guilt by association stones. Perhaps you should follow your own advice about how throwing too many stones can end up hitting you in the butt. I don't know why you're saying. I'm not running any charities. I don't know if this is you want to make a video on me, that's fine. That's what YouTube is for. That's opinions. I'm not worried about anybody in particular. So I don't even know how to take the statements, really, because I don't care, right? This channel's not monetized. I don't stand to make less money or less views because, somebody makes, I really don't know what you mean by this. I have no idea, right? I don't know any big YouTubers that I'm covering for, right? I don't know any big, if there's anybody out there that you want me to criticize for that did something wrong, tell me, and I'll cover it too, right? If you have a tip for me, hey, I'll talk about it. If whenever I'm in the can or in between diaper changes, I'll make a video on that person. But other than that, I have no idea, what you're talking about or why I should be careful, right? I'm pointing out things that are publicly available knowledge, right? This is all publicly available information. Pat's statement is public available information. Gerard's a completion is publicly available information, right? I'm commenting on current events. That's it. Now, I'm sorry that it affects you in such a deep way. I don't know why you're such a fan of these people, because let me tell you, unless you are a relative of these people, unless you know them personally, and I mean like really personally, most of these people do not give a shit about you. They don't care. Not Gerard, right? Not Pat, from what I can tell, right? This is from me watching him tell fuck you to his Patreons for suggesting how to run his show, right? So I don't see him defending you the way you defend him. But if that's how you like to live life, hey, go ahead, dude. It's a free country. But let me tell you something. I do appreciate your comments. I do appreciate you stopping by. And, hopefully you keep on commenting, because you do keep it interesting around here. All right, guys, I will catch you on the next one. And hopefully we'll have more videos for you. Take care.